The most underrated player in the entire draft class showed out the NFL Combine. We'll get to him and the other winners from the defense side of the ball on today's Renner Ranks.
This is Renner Ranks, the ultimate NFL ranking show. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into today's episode of Renner Ranks, your go-to daily ranks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to those everydayers out there. Do not forget, you can subscribe, like, follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Helps me out a ton. And I, of course, am Mike Renner, host of this show. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Defense did offense yesterday. If you haven't seen it, I guess yesterday. I'm literally recording these back to back. If you haven't seen it, why not? Go check it out after this, maybe. But let's get to the defense side of the ball, where, in my opinion, traits matter more. It's innate to the position. You are reacting to someone else more often than not. And to react and catch up, chances are you have to be more athletic than the other person. Now, not always. You can get very far by having instincts, seeing things before they happen, having good quote-unquote play speed. But for a lot of positions, a lot of things, traits matter a lot. So why don't we get right into it? Defensive tackle, where, boy, the clear winner was Braden Fiske. Whew. Florida State defensive tackle. Can't do much better than what he did, man. At 6'4", 292. And now we've mentioned the short arms before. 31 inches. That's not ideal by any means. And I think it shows up. I don't think he's ever going to be pure. I don't think he's ever going to be a two-gapper in the running game, but I don't think he's ever going to be a consistent impact guy in that regard. But this guy's athleticism can be a penetrator for sure. 4'7", 840. 94th percentile. 9'9" broad jump, 93rd percentile, 4'3" shuttle, 93rd percentile. Can't do much better than that, man. He is a high-end, twitchy, explosive dude. Now, he could be, honestly, you know who he kind of reminds me of and who I think he's probably going to be at the NFL level? I think he's going to be like a DPR type of guy, a pass-down kind of guy, almost like a Carl Klug. Do we remember Carl Klug? I believe he played for the Titans for a good number of years, but coming out of Iowa, 4'8", 540, 9'5" broad jump, 7'03" three cone. I mean, he's a high-end athlete, but was always kind of a little too undersized to be an every down guy, but made an impact as kind of a sub-package rusher in the interior for the course of his career. I think that's Fiske. I still probably don't have him as a top 50 player. I wouldn't go that far. I just don't quite see that every down impact from him on his tape. And again, he's on the older side, coming out as a sixth-year guy. But the traits are obviously there to be an impact to the next level. The other winner, so the other big riser. We'll get to some guys who won, but already kind of were thought of as that. But Mekhi Wingo, LSU DT. I'm a big fan of his game, man. Early declaree too, only a third-year guy. He's got that. He's 6 foot 284. He's got that compact DT build. Little bit longer arms though, 32 inches. So that's a solid starting point. You're in the Jarrell Casey-ish range. 4'8", 540. 165 10 split. Those are great numbers. At that size, 32-inch vertical, 25 bench reps. Now, again, not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Some people just don't love small DTs, but there's a track record of these guys, man. When you're productive, like he was on tape at LSU, when you have explosiveness in a compact build that's just difficult to out leverage when a guy's only 6 foot and 284 still, I'm excited to see where he ends up in the draft. I think he's going to be a player at the next level, to be honest. Now, the two guys who are already highly thought of who kind of came in the combine, or a few guys, Byron Murphy runs in the 4.8s at almost 300 pounds. Freaky dude. Rook or Horo goes 4.89 at 294, 29 bench press reps with 34-inch arms, 9.8 broad jump. Ooh, I'd say welcome to the top 50 Rook. I think he ends up in that range when it's all said and done. Chris Jenkins ticks that box as well, the Michigan DT. 6'3", 299, which 299 is a good weight for him. 34-inch arms, 4.9, 140, 9.7 broad jump, 29 bench press reps. Ooh. So top of the DT class, no testing from Johnny Newton. But those three, Jenkins, O'Hara, yikes, it's a mouthful. Just imagine I said it correctly. And obviously Byron Murphy. I think all three probably are top. I mean, Byron Murphy, we know is top 50 pick. But I think all three could end up top 50 picks. I don't think any of those three, at minimum, I don't think Jenkins or O'Hara end up third rounders. Or Fiske at this point, honestly. All right, to the edge class, where to the top of the edge class just showed up. Latu ran the low 4.6s. I thought that was a great time for him. We didn't see much else from him, but biggest question mark obviously was his athleticism, and that's a fine time. But Dallas Turner and Jared Verse were on a different level altogether. Turner, all-time combine man, comes in heavier than listed, 247, 34 and 3/8 inch arms, and then goes 4.46 in the 40, 41 inch vertical, 10.7 broad jump. That's what it looks like, folks. That's what, when I say he has what edge rushers, what the elite edge rushers look like at the next level, that's what I'm talking about. Just all world athleticism at nearly 250 pounds. That's just, you can't coach that stuff. You can't coach length with that kind of juice. So the guys that have it, they end up top 10 edge rushers in the NFL more often than not. So Dallas Turner, strong case for him being the first defensive player in this draft. Strong case. Him and Byron Murphy are 1-2, in my opinion. The order, I don't really care. They're awesome prospects. I think the Chicago Bears are just in the driver's seat in this draft because one of them is going to be on the board at pick 9. I don't think any comes off the board in the first 7 picks, right? First 7 picks is offense. QB, OT, wide receiver. That's your first 7. Atlanta, if they do get Kirk Cousins, then we could see Dallas Turner come off the board there. But even if they get Kirk Cousins, if like Rome Odunze is on the board for them, give me that. I'd take that in a heartbeat. Rome Odunze and Drake London. But Dallas Turner's, I think he ends up still in the top 10 somewhere. At 11 at worst, right, to Minnesota. That's a freaky combine. And then Jared Verse, dude, comes in a little lighter, 6'4", 254, 33.5 inch arms, good numbers, but listen to the 260s at Florida State. Obviously came because he wanted to fly, and boy did he. 4.58 at that size, 31 bench reps, 96th percentile. The guy put what he did on tape at Florida State, just power play, and just ripped the door off the combine from that regard. High-end linear explosion, high-end play strength, 10.7 broad jump, and now 7.31 cone, 4.44 short shuttle, both below 50 percentile. That's not who he is, right? He understands that too. He's not trying to get to the edge and bend back to the quarterback. He's trying to, quote Marshawn Lynch, run through a MF for his face. And he does. And that's traits, again, if you're going to be that player at the next level, and on the Faller podcast or the Loser podcast or the Underperformer podcast, whatever you want to call it, we'll get to a guy who's in a similar mold who didn't show the traits to be a power player, to be a will imposer at the defensive end position in the NFL with his testing. I think you guys may know who I was talking about. Maryland Trice. All right. Marshawn Nealand, Western Michigan defensive end. I thought he had an excellent combine, man. With everyone kind of coming down, trying to lose weight, he shows up as advertised, 6'3", 267, 34.5 inch arms. We knew that from the Senior Bowl, but didn't try to get light to test well and still tested great in the drills I wanted him to test great. At 267, he was never going to be a 4.5 guy, right? 4.75 for him, fine. 56th percentile, I'll take it. But 4.81 short shuttle, 7.02 3 cone. That's 95th percentile and 82nd percentile, respectively. Those are excellent numbers. Also did 36-inch vertical, 78th percentile. That guy can win, man. That's a skill set that can win. Long, bendy, with good enough explosion. That's the guy that can get to the edge consistently. I've said before, I believe, that he reminds me a lot of Jason Babin. It's a very similar profile to Jason Babin as an athlete, the way he tested. Jason Babin's numbers coming out, ironically, out of Western Michigan himself, 4.65, so a little faster, but he was 260 pounds, so a little bit lighter. 6'2", 6'3", range, almost similar height. Did 34 inches in the vertical compared to 36 for Nealon. 7.03 3-cone compared to 7.02 for Nealon. 4.14 short shuttle compared to 4.18 for Nealon. Folks, and I'm going to steal Daniel Jeremiah's term on this. We have a DNA match here. Those guys are very, very similar players. Last winter at the edge position, I thought Byron Murphy had himself a great combine. And now 6'2", 247 with 30.5-inch arms. That's it's a non-starter for a lot of people. He has short arms. He's had short arms, though, his entire career and killed college offensive tackles. So we'll see. But if you have short arms to win at the NFL level, you better also have the 1.59-10 split and the 40-inch vertical that he had. That can be a DPR, in my opinion, at the next level. You may never be no one's ever going to trust you with that length to go up against OTs in the run game consistently. Just the chance of you getting locked up, losing the edge, that's too worrisome for a lot of defensive coordinators. But I think that's a guy that can rush the passer on third downs, and we'll probably get that opportunity. So I really liked his combine. Still going to be a day 3 guy, but good numbers for him. All right, before we get to the linebacker position here, today's podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. What's the first thing you do if you had an extra hour in your day? A lot of us spend our lives wishing we had more time. Question is, time for what? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze the special things into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make them a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters most so you can do more of it. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/lockedon. On to the linebacker position, where a number of guys showed out. Top guys that we've talked about: Payton Wilson, 4.43, 35-inch vertical. Yeah, tick that box. You had Edgerrin Cooper go 4.51 out of Texas A&M, could be the first linebacker off the board. But I think the guy who had the most impressive compared to my expectations, Edefuan Olafosio, the Washington linebacker. My gosh, almost 6'1", 236 pounds with nearly 33-inch arms. Great build for an off-ball linebacker. High cut, long, good size. And he went 4.56 with a 39.5-inch vertical and 10.8 broad jump. Did y'all know he had that in him? I never thought he was a bad athlete. I was never concerned about his athleticism. That is an elite athlete, though, for the linebacker position with great size. That's a guy that with his tape, I think it might be Payton Wilson, Edefuan Olafosio, LB1 and LB2. Truthfully, I think they had the best tape over the course of their careers. It's obviously we didn't get to see Michigan linebacker Junior Colson didn't test. So when he does, he's obviously in that mix as well. But I liked Olafosio and Wilson's tape better than Cooper's in terms of NFL projectability, 3-down guys. Cooper maybe has more high-end potential, but I think the boom or bust aspect I'm a little worried about, because with linebackers, you just need the experience. You need guys who see it more often than not, or else it just takes a long time for them. So big fans of those two. Trevin Wallace from Kentucky, I said he was going to show out. Boy, did he. At 6'1", 237, goes 4.51, 38-inch vertical and 10.7 broad jump, all high-end numbers for linebacker position. He should be a top 100 pick, I'd imagine, after a combine like that. And then the guy who I only got to his tape recently, when actually Daniel Jeremiah was tweeting about him prior to the combine, Jordan McGee from Temple, 6'1", 228, little undersized, 32-inch arms. But if you're undersized, you want the guy running a 4.55 like he did with a 10.4 broad jump and the 36-inch vertical. I watched him on tape, and he's violent. He plays the right way that you want an undersized linebacker to play. And I do think at linebacker especially, it's not necessarily size, but how you play. Size obviously shows up at times. There's nothing you can do about, when you get locked up with an OT. When you're trying to tackle Derrick Henry, size will still matter for sure. But a lot of times it's just how violently do you play? Because I've seen 250-pound linebackers that I wouldn't trust between the tackles more than a guy like Jordan McGee, who wants to attack blocks. So big fan of his game. We'll see where he ends up on my next linebacker rankings when those drop. Back to the cornerback position where, man, a number of guys. It was a quick corner group. Obviously, the top of the class, Quinyon Mitchell, Nate Wiggins, they showed out. Wiggins we'll have to discuss showing up at 173 after he's listed at 185, and all we're discussing is his biggest issue is play strength and tackling. Not maybe the route I would have gone. Everyone knows he's fast. You don't need to see a 4.28 to know that guy can cook, but 4.28 is cool. It's always cool to break 4.3 for sure. I wouldn't know. We'll never know, but I'm sure it feels great. Quinyon Mitchell, though, that's an all-around great combine. 6 foot, 195, Toledo corner, 31-inch arms, 4.3, 340, 97 percentile, 38-inch vertical, 10-foot broad jump. His only weaker number, and then the 20 bench reps. The dude is strong. 91st percentile. And if you go back, and I've been looking, I did some looking back at historical combine stuff that I was going to drop a pod on, but then I ended up not having time to finish it. But one of the interesting things I found, cornerbacks drafted highly. First-round corners with, first-round corners who were drafted there because their tape was good, not drafted there because their like traits were good and they were just like projects. So first-round corners whose tape was good, who get drafted in the first round because of their tape, who also had elite athleticism, high-tier testing numbers, at least, however you wanted to find it, but just like RAS scores, like elite RAS scores. Those guys have a strong track record of first rounders. A lot of the first round busts at corner come from lackluster athletes or guys who were like projects getting drafted in the first round. Say your Kyrie Elams of the world. So, dude, Quinyon Mitchell with his tape plus athleticism, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the first corner off the board, truthfully. Good. Another winner, Mike Sainristil from Michigan. I didn't see this one coming, man. And pleasantly surprised because I love his tape. 5'9", 182, 30 and 7/8-inch arms. That's a slot. That's whatever. That's what you weren't expecting any different there, which actually that's fairly long arms for a 5'9" guy. And then he goes 4.47, 40-inch vert, 10.11 broad jump, 4.01 short shuttle, and 14 bench press reps. Well done, Mr. Sainristil. 6.99 3-cone, though, lackluster there. Probably the only one that's regrettable, but the rest you can win with. That's a guy who's a starting day one slot corner in the NFL for me. A few guys who are, I'd say, fringe top 100 who may have played their way in the top 100 after the combine. To touch on at the cornerback position, Elijah Jones from Boston College keeps acing his pre-draft tests. I raved about his tape at the Senior Bowl. Raved about what he did down there. Worried a little bit about his play strength. Worried maybe a little bit what kind of athlete he was, though, at the end of the day, just like who he was, because he's 6'2", 185, a little on the skinnier side. But, boy, is he an athlete. 42.5-inch vert, 10.11 broad jump, 4.4, 4.40, and 31.5-inch arms. That's one of my favorite late day two corners in this class for sure. I've loved what he's done so far over the past couple months. Max Melton from Rutgers too, a guy who on his tape at Rutgers, that defense is just so difficult to get a handle on. He's not doing, he's either backing into like deep cover, like cloud cover 3, which they don't even play in the NFL. Or he's sitting in cover 2 in the flat. Like it was not good translatable tape for the corner position. But you do see high-end click and close ability from him. And at the combine, 4.39 40, 41-inch vert, 11.4 broad jump, and 20 bench reps, man. And he's 5'11", 187, and he has 32.125-inch arms. Those are high-end tools for the cornerback position. So Max Melton, I think he played his way into a top 100 pick. And then the last guy who I think may be the most underrated corner in this class now, because I was a fan of him before for certain schemes, and now I'm really a fan of him because I didn't see this on tape. But Decamerion Richardson, Mississippi State corner, 6'2", 188, 32 and 3/8-inch arms, super long, dude. And he went 4.34 in the 40, 35-inch vertical, 10.7 broad jump. One of the best tackling corners in this draft class, one of the best at the line of scrimmage corners in this draft class. It feels like Mississippi State just produces. They just, I think all they recruit are just bald eagles on the outside with those wingspans. Now, saying bald eagle there, you may have thought I was going a different route, but the wingspans on those Mississippi State corners are always massive. Richardson, no exception, and he's physical, man. So I love him for, Kansas City Chiefs. I feel like he just like pencil him into the Chiefs right now. But teams that play press, teams that get their corners involved in the run game, Cameron Richardson, there's your guy. Now, before we get to this safety class, today's podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Safety class where, man, there weren't a lot of winners. I'm just keep it real with you. There was not an athletic safety class. It did not show out particularly. I think the top one, the one who's been considered one of the top ones who did the best, Javon Bullard, 4.47. That's literally all he did, the Georgia safety. Good box to take for him. The one who I think is joining that top group for me, Cole Bishop from Utah. He was awesome at the Senior Bowl, and he was awesome at the Combine, man. 6'2", 206. We've talked about his little baby arms, the 29 3/4 inches, which, man, at 6'2", 29 3/4 inches, so I'm 6 foot, and I have almost 31-inch arms. And that's like, that looks normal. They don't look long. Like a 6-footer should have 30-plus inch arms. And he's 6'2", rocking sub-30s. That sucks. But the man can fly. At that size, 4'4", 540, 39-inch vertical, 10.4 broad jump. Another guy who's ticked every single box this pre-draft process, declared early. I think he's in the running. Maybe not first safety off the board, but I'm fairly certain he's going to be a top 100 pick at this point. More than likely than not, I would bet a top 5 safety off the board after his pre-draft process and what we saw from on tape over the course of his career at Utah. Another guy who I was impressed with at the Shrine Bowl, and now here, Dadrion Taylor Demerson, the Texas Tech safety. My biggest concern with him on tape, I knew he was a good athlete. That one was obvious. Size, though, and tackling ability. He bounced off running backs and just looked like a guy who had to be protected. So he was 191 pounds listed at Texas Tech. Comes in 197. And it wasn't fake because he went 4.41 in the 40, 38-inch vertical, and 10.3 broad jump. All very good numbers. So looked great in man coverage at the Shrine Bowl. I think this guy could have a role. Now, I still don't expect plus tackling ability, but in a class full of meh athletes, as we'll see when we get to the underperforming pod at the safety position, I think Dadrion Taylor Demerson has a chance to, he's probably still a day 3 guy, but has a chance to go probably in the 4th round, I'd say at this point. And the last one, a guy we knew who would test well, but man, Tyler Owens, Texas Tech safety. I am pissed that we didn't get to see a 40, not only because I bet on him sub 4.3, but because his start before he pulled his groin looked like he was shot out of a cannon, which is not surprising because at that size, 6'2", 216, 33 3/8-inch arms, he had a 12.2 broad jump. The longest broad jump ever by a safety, the second longest, not only in NFL history, in human history, because Byron Jones jumped 12.3 is the world record for the broad jump. So he had the second longest ever. The guy is special athletically. I'm very curious to see where he gets drafted because his tape is raw, let's just say. I mean, he's not instinctual, I don't even know how to describe it. It just looked, it almost looked like it just almost like a guy who just switched from offense to defense. Is kind of how I'd best describe it, which he didn't, unfortunately. But you see reps where it's like he gets caught as a quarter safety with a vertical coming at him. He's kind of like late to see it. And then he just turns and goes, though. And the amount of ground he can make up in situations like that is utterly absurd. So if this guy just figures out a little with his range and his ability to move, and like he laid some big hits on tape too. It's not like he doesn't want to play physical. It's just that he's kind of up and down. I'm curious to see how the NFL sees him, because I wish we could have seen him actually go through some position drills. That would have helped more, because there are not many better just pure athletes that I've ever seen on a football field. That's not, like when you watch Micah Parsons, you're like, whoa, that's just like different. Tyler Owens is like, whoa, that was just different. That just doesn't happen. But safety, obviously, a little bit more. You can't afford some growing pains at the safety position in the NFL. So we'll see how he ends up at the next level. There you have it. Your winners at the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. We'll do losers on the next pod, and then we'll get to the fun, the top 100 draft board later in the week. You've been listening to Renner Ranks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.